but that 88 is pulling away.
Earnhardt, Johnson, Menard, Blaney, third-generation star, Dale Earnhardt Jr. brings him to the flag. Checkered flag, waving, it's over. It's Earnhardt. Earnhardt trying to cover all spots.
Oh, yeah! Good job, Junebug.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. Checkered flag at Talladega.
Why is this one so much fun? Because your grin told so many stories on your cool-down lap.
It's just real emotional. I haven't won here in a long time. It was my daddy's birthday a couple days ago. It's just real emotional, man.
My nerd world.
And real emotional is what I was when we got the news that Dale Earnhardt Jr. was going to have to sit out another 2 races at a bare minimum before he returns to the racetrack. And I almost thought about recording a podcast when the news came down. I think most of us fans saw it coming, and I decided to wait. And I'll tell you why I decided to wait here in just a moment. Welcome to my Nerd World and the Dale Jr. Race Preview podcast. I will be doing and I will continue to do the podcasts until Dale Jr. returns to the racetrack. That is my plan. And I have personally found a way to enjoy my NASCAR, root for a driver who's not Dale Earnhardt Jr. You know, the fandom comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes, right? I'm a Star Wars fan, and I do a Star Wars podcast, in case you didn't know, as part of my Nerd World. And there are different levels of fandom. You know, my family's a fan, my boys are fans, my wife is a fan, but they're not nearly as devoted or interested. They're not as big of fans as I am. You know, I like to go to the conventions. I do the podcast every week. I'm constantly looking on websites for more information. I think the same thing goes for Dale Earnhardt Jr. fans. Although I would say there are fewer levels. I would say there are casual NASCAR fans, but if you follow Dale Jr., if you're listening to this podcast, then you're probably pretty close to being as big of a fan as I am if you're listening to a Dale Earnhardt Jr. podcast. So that being said, I think for the majority of us, the reason why we're Dale Earnhardt Jr. fans is because of Dale Earnhardt Jr., the person. That's what makes NASCAR so great, is the connection that we have with these drivers, with the sport itself, but really with these drivers. And it really goes, look, it goes to the heart of the word fandom, right? But we have a connection there. I mean, that's really what being a fan is. It's having a connection to that thing that you're a fandom of. And I think most of us can agree that we like Dale Earnhardt Jr. a lot as a person. And there's a connection there. We root for him. We devote our time paying attention to what he's doing, and we go to the racetrack. We spend, money on merchandise, and we proudly wear Dale Jr. gear with his signature on it. We proudly adorn the number of his race car on the windshields of our cars and on the license plate covers, right? I mean, this is the level of our fandom. And so for me to know that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is having as difficult a time as he is with these concussion-related issues that he's dealing with, it's tough. I was emotionally not distraught. I was sad. I was emotionally sad when it was announced that Jeff Gordon was going to be getting in the car and Dale Jr. had to sit out another 2 races. And I felt really bad, and I think like a lot of us did. And just like last week's podcast, his health is the most important thing above and beyond racing. But look, make no mistake, Dale Earnhardt Jr. wants to come back to the racetrack. He wants to get back in the race car. As a matter of fact, let's go here first, and I'll just share with you the tweets that Dale Jr. has sent out since everything has taken place. So the one that I think most everybody was waiting for was he finally tweeted a day ago. Today is the first day in many that I sensed improvement, seen small gains during my physical therapy as well, light at the end of the tunnel. So that was on Thursday. He also put a tweet out about 20 hours ago, about a day ago. Had a lot of fun with these rides. Hopefully they land a new home where someone else will enjoy them as well. He's talking about Dale Jr. selling 4 of his customized vehicles on eBay. And then just a couple of hours ago, Dale Jr. tweeted out a picture of his pit stall with his name above the pit stall. So you know that Dale Jr. is missing coming to the track, and I feel better knowing that he's finally tweeting again. And being completely honest, I was getting a little bit more concerned because Dale Jr. had been so quiet on Twitter, and so had Amy. I haven't checked Amy's Twitter feed, but she hadn't tweeted anything since the last race that he ran. So that was before New Hampshire. She hadn't tweeted anything, which got me wondering, wow, I mean, Dale Jr. and Amy are really, both of them are really keeping this quiet. I wonder how bad that it is. Seeing Dale Jr.'s comments, however, that tweet I just read to you about feeling better, and also hearing from Rick Hendrick gives me confidence that he wants to come back to the track. He's itching to get back to the track. He wants to get better, and hopefully it'll just take these 2 weeks to get him where he needs to be. I'm hoping they're being overly cautious with this, because I think a lot of people were wondering whether or not this was going to be the end of the season, and to a certain extent also whether or not this was going to be the end of Dale Jr.'s career. I mean, this is a serious matter. Is it the kind of thing where Dale Jr. just has to avoid getting into wrecks? Because it's going to happen. Ricky Craven has been making the rounds lately, and he dealt with concussions. And so it was really great to hear Ricky Craven's take on all of this. And his assessment, just really for the sake of the podcast, just getting right to it, his assessment was that, time will heal this, and he needs the time to heal this. So I'm really hoping that, I think like a lot of people are, that these 2 weeks, these 3 weeks essentially, of being out of the race car will be enough to get him back into the race car and get him back into the race car with confidence. I would actually be okay if he skipped one more race, and I'll explain why in just a moment. But again, I'm glad I waited to do the podcast, because I think if I had done it that Wednesday when we got the announcement, I probably would have sounded really depressed. But since then, I have made some sort of personal decisions on how I'm going to deal with watching the races, and perhaps this will help you as a fan in watching these races over the course of the next few weeks, still get as much enjoyment out of the race as we normally do watching Dale Earnhardt Jr. So let's get to that. Jeff Gordon's coming back to the racetrack. I've never been a Jeff Gordon fan. I've never hated on Jeff Gordon. I've just never been a Jeff Gordon fan. I have never rooted for Jeff Gordon in a race, apart from, to a certain extent, the final race last year when he retired, when he was going for another championship. I was rooting for him then because I think a lot of people, like myself, thought it would have been a great end to his career to have him go and win that championship, and certainly not have Kyle Busch go and win it. This weekend and Pocono will be the first time in my 16 years of watching NASCAR that I will be gladly rooting for Jeff Gordon in that 88. I don't know if you've been watching any of the coverage. Qualifying's on right now, and it doesn't look like Jeff's going to make it out of the second round, so it looks like he's going to be qualifying somewhere in the upper 20s. The car's better than that. We'll talk about this in just a moment, but it looks like he's not going to qualify better than the 20s, which is kind of interesting because it seems as if Jeff's having the same problem with the car in qualifying that Dale Jr. was having with the car in qualifying. So I take a little bit of comfort in that. If Jeff can't go, and granted, he hasn't been in the car in 7 months, but if Jeff can't go and do better than in the mid-20s to qualify at Indy, and then that makes me feel better for the way that Dale Jr.'s been qualifying this season. But also, look, make no mistake, Dale Jr. could have been dealing with this from a wreck, back from Dover, for all we know. So looking at the past couple of races and the performance in the early part of the summer, that may have well been due to the fact that he wasn't feeling well. But let me get back to Jeff Gordon for just a minute. If you've been watching any of the coverage, I don't know about you, it's pretty cool to see if anybody is going to be in the Exalta 88 nationwide car. in 88 gear, seeing Jeff Gordon in 88 gear is pretty darn cool. I didn't think I was going to feel that way, but when I started watching practice on Friday and they had the graphics up for Jeff, because obviously, and justifiably so, NASCAR is pumping the daylights out of having Jeff Gordon back on the racetrack. To see that combination was really cool, and it actually got me excited to root for Jeff in these next few races and at least get myself close to the same level of enjoyment that I get paying attention and watching Dale Jr. on, Race View and tweeting about him. And here's my thought process going into it. I want Jeff Gordon to win these next two races. I want Jeff Gordon to win these next two races, even though it's going to be a long shot. I want him to win these next two races because of the fact that not only is it a great story to have Jeff Gordon come back out of retirement, doing a favor to Hendrick Motorsports, subbing in for Dale Jr., who's at home getting well, but it would also continue to keep Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the hunt for this championship. I'm not writing this off yet. I am absolutely not writing off a chance for Dale Jr. to get in the chase yet. And it wasn't until I looked at the schedule that I actually began to realize and got really excited about the fact that, you know what, there is still every possibility that Dale Jr. can do this. If Jeff Gordon wins any of the races this week or next week, and both at places where he's really good at, that still leaves open slots in the championship grid for Dale Jr. to get a win and lock himself in. If any drivers are first-time winners here at Indy this weekend or Pocono next weekend, that takes away another spot for Dale Jr. to possibly win and get into the chase, depending on whether or not they fill up those 16 slots. So the better that Jeff Gordon does, the better opportunity it gives for Dale Jr. once he gets back in the race car to go and either get points back, which is possible, or to get a win and lock himself in. When you look at the schedule coming up, so we've got, Indy this weekend, Pocono next weekend, and then you're looking at Watkins Glen, Bristol, Michigan, Darlington, and Richmond. Now, if he comes back for Watkins Glen, we have 5 races where Dale Jr. can make up points. That's a lot of racing. That's a lot of opportunity. He's going to drop out of the top 16 this weekend. For those that don't know, unless Dale Jr. starts in the car, he doesn't get any points. So he's going to drop out, and probably, based off of how many he lost last week, he's probably going to be, if he comes back for Watkins Glen, I would imagine that Dale Jr. is going to be 30 or 40 points back, about a race back. But still, 5 races is a lot of time to make up those points. And a lot of things can happen to those other drivers that are circling in that area around the chase bubble that can certainly go and put him in a position where heading into Richmond with a good top 20 finish, he can still go and make the chase. Not to mention the fact that, and I know it's a tall order given the fact that he's having to be out of the race car, that he's dealing with these issues. It's all dependent on how soon he gets back in the race car. But if he gets well and gets back in the race car and feels confident enough, there's no reason why he can't win at Bristol, Michigan, Darlington, or Richmond. No reason. Watkins Glen is sort of the gamble. I would say that if Dale Jr. has to skip Watkins Glen, which a part of me says that's okay, but only 4 races to make up and being more than a race behind, then you're looking at more than likely him having to win a race to get himself locked into the chase. By the way, just for the record, Jeff Gordon ended up qualifying 21st. And I'll give you a bit of a Jeff Gordon recap here at the end of the podcast. So that's how I'm looking at it. Heading into the races this weekend and at Pocono, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of I'm going to root for Jeff Gordon. And I'm rooting for Jeff Gordon because he's subbing for Dale Jr., and I just think it would be a fantastic story to see Jeff Gordon get into the car and win a race and finish good. If Dale Jr. can't be in the 88, then by all means, put Jeff Gordon in there. That's a great call, and I think it's great for the sport. And by the same token, if Jeff can win a race, then that helps Dale Jr. in his opportunity to get back in the race car when he's ready and go out there and win a race.